G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dill, and we're the Fantasy Bros. We're back once again with partnering with GameDay Squad to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League this season. Thank you all for joining us live once again on YouTube or Facebook. Dill, usually we'd be previewing the round of NRL ahead, but our focus shifts a little bit to something arguably more important to, well, at least 5.52 million of us Queenslanders. We know our counterparts from south of the border don't quite get Origin, but of course, without them, we wouldn't have a game. Dill, welcome, mate. Are we still calling you Dill, or would you rather go by GDS Cup champion?
Yeah, I think I would prefer that second one there. Obviously, I did get up against JT in the GDS Cup. It came down to the wire, and my couple of picks of Harry Hayes on the wing, and then also Dylan Lucas got me over the line. So I'm really pumped about that. And as you know, we enjoyed that last game together. Unfortunately, the Warriors couldn't get up, but I was able to take that victory from the GDS Cup. And already Cal straight in, and he is now calling it the GDS Cup winner and Stewie. So that is perfect. I like that. That will be our intro from now on, I reckon. And you're right, mate. The Queensland versus New South Wales competition is one of the most important, I think, for all of us in Queensland. Like you said, New South Welshmen don't quite get it. In fact, we know quite a few people from New South Wales that have moved up here because it's much nicer to be up here, and it's much more of a winning culture, and we enjoy the heart and soul of our players in the Queensland versus New South Wales competition. And that's what we're here for tonight, is to preview that massive game that is coming to us in about an hour and a half. So we're going to go through all of our start sets, the updates to the team lists when they come through. And then we'll also give out some prizes, and we've got a few questions, I'm sure, that we fired your way. If you are brand new to the GameDay Squad platform, you have plenty of time to sign up. You've still got an hour and a half before that Queensland versus New South Wales competition kicks off. It is the only platform for fantasy sport for rugby league that you can play Queensland versus New South Wales. You can sign up, just download the app, go to the website, put in the promo code FB25, that is FantasyBros, FB25, and you'll receive 3 common 9-player packs. Plus, you can jump on, you can go to the Discord and look to trade and sell some cards through the marketplace as well. And then we've also got some unreal Queensland versus New South Wales packs that have just dropped a couple of days ago, and you can see those card designs on screen. They are looking fresh.
Absolutely, mate. It'll be an action-packed next, probably hour and 15 minutes. We might have to give ourselves a bit of breathing room to log off and get our sides finalised, because I'm sure there are going to be some late-minute changes, like there always are. We'll preview those teams shortly. But, yeah, as you can see on screen, everyone, Dill has got that title of the 2025 GDS Cup champion underneath his name. We've come a long way. 12 months ago, you might remember, you had, do you actually remember what the caption underneath your graphic was this time last year?
I think just a good bloke. I think from memory.
Yeah, it was something like still a really nice guy. But yeah, I think GDS Cup winner has a much better ring to it. And hey, don't discount me, Cal. Don't just call me Stewie, mate. There's a 2-time GDS overall champion underneath my name as well. Let's not forget about that. But yes, obviously Dill is that final man standing out of all 512 competitors. He will not let any of us forget about that for a long, long time to come. So, hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. You've got not only the GDS Cup winner, you've got a couple of regular season champion wins to my name as well. If you don't leave with a couple of good tips after the next hour and 15 minutes, then I'm sorry, but I don't know what we can do to help you. All right, Dill, tonight, it wouldn't be a Fantasy Bros live preview show without some giveaways. We've got a couple of packs that we're going to open up and hand out some Queensland versus New South Wales players to anyone in the comments section. So start getting those comments in. Everyone that sort of contributes to the show, whether they just put in a little bit of banter, maybe ask us some question or tell us who they're going to play in their teams this evening. They'll all go into the running for some Queensland versus New South Wales players, and also one pretty special Queensland versus New South Wales player card. That can you just remind everyone, Dill, what does that benefit our Queensland versus New South Wales teams this evening?
Yeah, so obviously The Queensland versus New South Wales competition, there is a salary cap there. So it's a little bit different to your starter or your champion where there's no salary cap as such. So you have to be considerate of the players that you are playing and the rarities that you have. Fortunately, a GDS Queensland versus New South Wales card does have a salary cap that is involved there. It is 600,000, but you do get a 1.4 multiplier to that. So rather than the gold card that it is usually worth, it is actually worth 1.4. So you get a much greater opportunity to score points there. So it's about picking those right players, using the right Queensland versus New South Wales cards, and then picking those opportunities to maybe play up in a silver or a gold player if you think they are going to have a big game. So that's the benefit there. We do have one to give away. As Stewie said, anyone that comments on tonight's show, whether that's who you're playing, who you're sitting, whether that's the score that you think that the top player is going to receive, we will put you into the wheel and we're going to have a bunch of cards to give away. And then that major prize will be that Queensland versus New South Wales card that you cannot quite see there, but it does have a tinge of maroon behind it. So we do know from what state, at least, that player is coming from.
That's right. And you might have alluded to that a little bit earlier on today in the Discord as well.
Indeed.
Still, in about half an hour's time, the team list is going to drop for certainty of who's going to be starting in that starting 13 to kick off tonight's match. So we've got about half an hour until we're madly going to be refreshing our screens to see if the 13s on screen listed currently are correct. But mate, if there were any changes to either team, maybe let's start with Queensland. Could you see any changes that might happen, whether it's the makeup of the 13 or even some changes to the bench?
Yeah, I was quite thrown last year when there was a number of changes across each game, and the big one is probably going to be whether Harry Grant starts or whether he starts from the bench. You know, we've seen in the past he has come on at the interchange player. Obviously, the player that's not there and the player that has been taking his hooker role was Ben Hunt. So because he's not there, I potentially could see Harry Grant still starting. And then it sort of leaves Tommy Dearden in a bit of a no man's land. I think it will be interesting to see how that he's been used and whether he does come into that hooking role or whether he plays sort of a floating lock type player. But I feel like Queensland's probably more set compared to New South Wales. What do you think about the New South Wales squad? Do you think there's going to be one big change based on the news we've seen earlier this week?
The news you might be referring to, is that around the injury or uncertainty around some of the big players in Payne Haas or Stephen Crichton? Yeah, look, I feel like they're ready and they're good to go. We haven't heard a lot of information after probably 2 days ago where there was that footage of Crichton sort of limping out of camp, and Watson sort of came on and said that it was just a bit of a cork. He'll be fine to go. It didn't look great from the perspective of a New South Wales fan, if you were one, the way that he was sort of being helped off the field. But look, the reports are that he is good to go. They had sort of Campbell Graham there and Matty Burton to come in as maybe 18th man as cover. But if he's named on that team sheet, you'd expect that he'd be ready to go. And I think Payne Haas has been given the all clear as well. I actually think there might be some more movement through the Queensland team. You did mention the Harry Grant, Tom Dearden in a question. We've got a bit of a question mark about how Dearden's going to be used. Obviously, excellent cover through the halves. But it probably does make sense to even start him as a hooker for the first 15 minutes. It would only take one interchange to get Harry on the field, whereas if Harry Grant starts, we know he's been underdone with his hamstring, only played 55 minutes in return for the Storm a couple of weeks back. He hasn't played the full 80 in Origin for a long, long time. He's probably not going to be able to play it. So we want him on the field as often as possible. But if he maybe starts off for the first 15 or 20 and Dearden just, tackles as best he can and just throws some nice ball off the deck, then we only need to really make that one interchange on Harry Grant, and then Dearden can come back on maybe as a roaming 13 or wherever an injury might be later on in the match as well. So Billy's probably got a very ideal plan for Dearden up his sleeve. That might be as early as the start of the match, but it could be sort of around that 30 or 50-minute mark. That'll be interesting to see. I'm also a bit unsure about the starting edge. Maybe we'll talk a bit more about the likes of Nanai and Fermor a little bit later on when we get to the edges. But as we always do, we preview the position by position. We'll begin with the forwards. and then we'll share our take on who we're playing in our teams and some reasons why. Before we get there, Dill, did you want to maybe open up a pack or two to show our viewers what they could be getting their hands on a little bit later tonight?
So, yeah, as Stewie said, we're going to open some packs. We've got a few commons. We've got a couple of rares there as well. Obviously, the common and rare are more likely to have the silver and gold, which you might want to use. And what we're going to do tonight is any Origin player, any Queensland versus New South Wales player card that is pulled will go into the final draw. So you'll have an opportunity, anyone that comments, to be on that wheel and to potentially win one of the cards. So let's click over. Let's jump into a pack there. I'm just going to refresh so it will open correctly. And then we will get it up on the screen for you. Alrighty. Okay, let's jump in there. So you can see that on my screen. We've got a common. Let's get into it. If you haven't already, make sure you check out the Queensland versus New South Wales packs as well. They have a brand new opening sequence there. It looks unreal. Nice way to get into.
How good is it? Yeah.
Between that and the new card look, I love it. Alrighty, let's jump straight in. So we've got Wilson, Saifidi, Foreign, Liam Henry, Joe Chan, Ford, Arthur, Host, and Hutchinson. Nothing there yet, but don't despair. We've got plenty more to come. Do you want to flick over and have a crack at one of your packs now, mate?
I will indeed. Have you got mine there on screen yet?
Let's make sure. Yes, we do.
There we go. Let's get through and have a look. All right, we've got a couple of Titans. AJ Brimson.
Oh, 3 Titans.
Player 3 in a row. 4.
All
right.
Lovely.
Sean O'Sullivan.
Here we go.
Tommy Gilbert, who probably would have been featuring if it wasn't for that injury a couple of weeks ago. Jamie Humphries, lovely little gold card there. And Fa'atape. No cards there to give away, but there certainly will be, you'd expect, pretty shortly. Right, Adele, how about we get cracking into the middle preview? I know that straight off the bat, you and I have a bit of a different opinion here with the hookers that we're going to start. As you can see on screen there, I've gone for Reece Robson. You've got Harry Grant as your starting hooker at the moment. You want to run us through some reasons for Grant first, and then I'll share why I've gone for Robson.
Yeah, I guess we've already touched on it. It's the question marks over Dearden. And I still think, as you say, if Dearden does start and plays sort of that 15, 20 minutes and then Harry Grant plays the rest of the game, I still think I might stay on him. It's just going to be what that rotation looks like. Look, we look at Grant's stats in the past, in this competition, and he's only averaging 36.3 GDS points. 29 GDS points. New South Wales since 2021 have allowed only 36 GDS points. So there's not a lot of points available for Harry Grant, and the reason is he often starts from the bench, like I said, with Ben Hunt being in and around the squad over the last few years. So if that doesn't eventuate in terms of that rotation with Dearden and Grant, he might potentially have more opportunity on the field, and he might have some more of that attacking upside that we know Harry's had in the past compared to someone like Robson, who we've talked about him for the last couple of weeks. He has improved his running game a little bit, and like you've alluded to, he's probably had someone in his ear saying, look, you need to improve that running game to have you're not 9 jersey back for New South Wales. But I'm just a little bit hesitant with the likes of Connor Watson on the bench as well. We've seen Connor Watson have a pretty good season so far, starting in the hooker role for the Roosters and then moving to that lock role. We know Watson's got the motor to play 80. So again, there's probably question marks over what his role is going to be and whether he does come on and give Yo a spell or whether he goes and gives Robson a spell. And I feel like, if anything, Watson might be a little bit more dangerous in attack when he does come on the field, if he does go into that hooker role. Look, as always, hooker is a pretty boring position. You're not going to get too many points there. It really just comes down to who you think is going to be just a little bit more dominant through the middle and potentially with that attacking upside. And look, little hint for everyone, if you're looking at playing your salary right, I'd be looking at bronze cards for either Robson or Grant. That's just my opinion. I don't think you're going to get too much more out of them. So, yeah, at the moment, I'm sticking with Harry, but that could change in about half an hour or so, 20 minutes or so when we get that final team list.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you in terms of the bronze rarity. If you've got a Queensland versus New South Wales, Robson or Grant, it would obviously be very tempting to put them into the side. But yeah, that does obviously take up a little bit more salary cap. You might not get the added benefits of a massive score. So if you're leaning toward maybe playing someone else, yeah, hooker's probably the way to go in terms of just putting bronze out there, and there probably won't be too much separating the two by the end of the match. Just before I talk about Reece Robson, we've got Mel joining us again. G'day, Mel. Thanks for tuning in. I'm not sure where you are on your travels at the moment, Mel, but I'm sure wherever it is a beautiful place. We've got Michael joining us as well. He had some work commitments, but he's here with us. He says, well done, Dill. Obviously referencing your GDS Cup success. And Matty P
Thank you.
is here once again. A lot of the regulars. Matty P is also saying congrats on the GDS Cup win, Dill. And he's backing you in. He is going to be playing Grant. Yeah, look, I don't think you can go wrong playing either of these two guys. I will be referencing some stats by our good friend and your grand final opponent, Fire Breathers. JT's obviously doing some really fantastic things with the stats lab, and he's got some really good data together over the past 2 Origin seasons. Obviously, we've had Billy Slater as the coach, and his sort of strategy would be quite similar across those 2 years. We've got Loz coaching the Blues, so we might see something a little bit different the way that he uses his interchange players, and so it's really hard to read into predominantly what the Blues will do, but we've got a fair idea of, I guess how Billy might go about making some changes and using his bench from the Maroons' perspective. But for me, look, Harry Grant's numbers over the previous 2 seasons at least haven't been flattering at all. 27.3 points in 51 minutes. Obviously, he shared that number 9 role with Ben Hunt in the team, and without Hunt, that's likely to change, and those minutes are probably going to be up from 51 because we're still not entirely sure what Dearden will do. But look, he's coming back from that hamstring injury as well. He was out for a long time for the Storm there. What was it, 3 or 4 weeks? And then he only played 55 in his return. I'm not sure that he can go the distance. And I also see the Blues pack, probably being a little bit better than ours. And I can see, we know that Grant misses or drops off a tackle or 2 if he's tired, if his hammies are sore either side of the break. He might drop off a couple more than he might ordinarily do. And we know the demerits are really poor there in terms of Harry Grant. So Reece Robson, look, his numbers aren't much better. Let me say that to start. He averages 33.3 in the last 2 series, and that's from 65 minutes. He did play 80 in game 1 last year, but that was without a recognised hooker on the bench. Watson didn't play that match. And he had a really nice score in that match. But obviously after that, his minutes dropped below 70. He played, I think, 67 and 63 in game 2 and 3 last year. And Watson sort of filled in the last sort of 17 or so minutes in those matches. Watson obviously can play as a really good middle forward as well. So there is a world where they're both on the field at the same time. Yep. It's probably less likely that there's a world where both Dearden and Grant are on the field at the same time, unless they're probably chasing points and wants plenty of speed around the middle there. So, yeah, look, for me, it's maybe more so a case of flipping a coin, but backing Robson's fitness over Harry Grant and also that Blues pack is probably maybe a little bit better than ours, meaning that they might be on the front foot a little bit more frequently, and Robson could take advantage, maybe some tired forwards just before the break, or throwing a short ball to someone close to the line and getting a few attack stats that way. It wouldn't surprise me to see Harry Grant score more points, but look, there might not be too many in it. I'm just probably taking the fitness and maybe the playing in a better pack.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, and you go back to the stats last year, for example, Reece Robson across the 3 games averaged 33 points. At the same time, I mean, Harry had, like you said, that 27, plus he had like an 8 or 9 in that as well. So his average was a lot lower than Robson. So it's quite a tough thing to go back and have a look at some historical data as well. As you say, the coaches obviously have their own game plans and they sort of change year in, year out. Plus the makeup of the sides are often different. So it's quite difficult to sort of predict how we're going to go about it. But we do our best based on the stats that we've got and hope that some of those defensive patterns, etc., are sort of, stock standard, the way that teams attack and defend. So, yeah, we probably have to premise that. We are using historical data, but sometimes, obviously players are going to go above and beyond that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a bit of a toss of the coin, and it looks like most people are sort of going the way of Harry Grant in the comments. Sif Kanga going for Grant. We also, Melissa is in Mykonos. There you go. It must be nice. Hopefully there's a nice Aussie pub there somewhere for Melissa to be able to watch the game tonight. Skip's also in the comments as well, and he's going to play an Origin Grant. That is very bold of Skip tonight. Very bold indeed. You do have one fan though, mate. You've got Jack in the comments. Jack Ganley, welcome, mate. You are running Robson as well. So pretty even, sort of heading towards Grant at the moment. But like I said, 10 minutes away, that could all change. Who knows?
Can we just take a moment to applaud Mel's dedication? Not only is she in one of the most beautiful places in the entire world, the beautiful, lovely Greek islands in Mykonos, but she's spending that time to join us on our stream as we preview Game 1 of Queensland versus New South Wales. Thank you very much, Mel. Hope you're having a wonderful time and hope you go well tonight as well. Dill, our middles. We've got 4 similar plays. Obviously, we're going for 5 middles. We can play 3 on our field. We've got the flexibility of having a hooker, middle, or an edge forward on our bench, and we can play up to 2 bench forwards. You and I have both gone for the safety, I think, and playing 5 middles. It's probably hard to force an extra hooker in there, and we know that the edge forward position, isn't littered with good choices. So to me, it makes sense that we're playing 5 middles each. The 4 similar ones are Isaiah Yeo, Payne Haas, Paddy Carrigan, and Mitchie Barnett. We're pretty we're in agreement with those 4, but then there is one difference. We're staying in the Queensland pack, but I've gone for Tino, and you've gone for Ruben Cotter. I'll throw it to you, mate. You can kick things off. Why Cotter over Tino?
Yeah, and this is probably where I did have that toss-up between Tino and Cotter. And for me, it just has purely come down to the opportunity that I think Cotter has. We know he's that player that is made for this kind of arena. We've seen it plenty of times. He just gets in and does the hard yards and the dirty work, and he does it with those long locks flowing. But we've seen him play a number of different roles in the team as well. He's played through the middle. He's played on the edge. But like I said, it's that work ethic and tenacity that never seems to cease. He seems to be chasing down everything, whether it's a kick at the line, whether it's chasing down a player in defence. He's always there. The thing I like about Cotter, he's played 80 minutes on 4 occasions since 2021. And one of those games he did start on the edge, which he, based it right now. That's where he's starting. And he scored 55 points in that game, which was his highest score in the Queensland colours. You compare that to someone like Tino, who's been in some really good form for the Titans. He's sort of been pushing that almost 80-minute role. He seems to come off and have sort of a 5, 6, 7-minute spell and then is straight back on the field. But I just don't think he's that kind of player that is going to play the 80 minutes. And I feel like Cotter potentially could. I think he's got more opportunity. And I think with that time on the field, Cotter can rack up some more points potentially there. And that's probably all it comes down to. If Tino gets more minutes, I'll be a little bit annoyed and I'll have to go back to the drawing board. But that's where I think I'm at the moment, is Cotter purely based on the potential minutes.
Yeah, really interesting how Cotter has been used, bouncing between both the edge and middle. In what, maybe 10 minutes time, when the 1 hour team lists are released, we might be revisiting this. So it wouldn't shock me to see Bo Fermor named there as a starting left edge. I don't really see him as an impact player of the bench. Cotter maybe more so if he's played through the middle because of his sort of leg speed tied forwards if he comes on after sort of 2025. But yeah, Cotter's done a job, whether it's 80 minutes on an edge, 70 minutes floating through an edge in the middle. His PPM has been about 0.58 across the past 2 seasons. So, we're probably not going to get a massive score from him, but he will have plenty of minutes on the field, and you'd expect him to get through his work pretty well. And he tends to go up a gear in that maroon jersey. You notice him a bit more than you probably normally do in a Cowboys game. But yeah, look, the Bo Fermor on the bench, maybe he's just been being hidden there away from the sort of the media for his debut, and he might be a late starting spot there on the edge. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, I just don't know where they're going to use Fermor or for how long and why he's in the team if he's not going to have a decent role. Whereas, yeah, Cotter probably floats between the 2 positions. He might just take the sting out of the game for the first 15 or 20. He might then rotate in the middle for a little bit, and his minutes might be down if sort of Fermor plays out the rest of the match. So, yeah, I'm really important questions might be answered in about 10 minutes time. But yeah, for me, it's probably just the upside of Tino. We know what we're going to get from Cotter, and he certainly could outscore Tino. But I really love the attacking upside that Tino brings, both through the tackle breaks and through the offloads. He's really improved his offload game, probably for the last 3 or 4 matches there against the Titans, where he was pretty quiet early on in the season, and he's been throwing 3, 4, and even had a 6 offload game as well. So he's not afraid to throw it. It's obviously going to be really good with KP backing up, through the middle. We might have some speedy guys like Hammer, Val also that would be sniffing around for those offloads too. So I can expect plenty of them from Tino, whereas, Cotter maybe more of that meat and potatoes. He'll make plenty of tackles. He'll cut the ball up. He'll find his knees and elbows and have a quick roll the ball. But yeah, there's probably not that much upside. In 2023, Tino averaged 43 minutes. He didn't play last season due to the ACL, obviously. But yeah, he's been unreal at clubland for the Titans, and no disrespect to them, but he's playing alongside 16 much better blokes this tonight. So you'd expect him to sort of go up a gear as well. He doesn't need to play 73 minutes with a 6-minute stint on the bench. He might only need 55 or 60 minutes, to score a really good score. But he's going to want to go toe to toe with Payne Haas and a couple of those big props from New South Wales. So he'll want to be on the field, and I'm sure Billy will want to use him to get at some of those big boys as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to see him rip and tear for the Maroons. And having him in my team and cheering him on is only going to make things sweeter when he barrels over the top of a couple of them and scores a try.
Yeah. I would be happy either way, to be honest, whether I played him or not, if that happens. But yeah, look, on Tino's minutes, over the last few seasons in terms of Queensland versus New South Wales, look, I've got data going back to 2021, so I can only talk on up to there. He's averaging about 47 minutes on the field since 2021. And obviously, Tino there, again, he's had a few different roles across that time, whether it's starting at prop, starting at lock, or even off the bench. And he's had a couple of opportunities where he's got up to that 55 sort of mark as well. So, yeah, the question marks are going to be, does he stay on the field for that 55, or do we see it closer to that 45-ish mark that he's played in the past? So, like you said, there could be some questions answered very soon. And if Fermor does come in, then I think it's an easy pivot for a lot of players or a lot of coaches, that maybe have Cotter in the side. If he doesn't, there might be some further question marks over who has more minutes and who has a bigger impact on the game. So, yeah, I think it's at the moment, it's a 50-50, and then we'll just see what happens in about 5 minutes' time. The really important question here, I'll get to Skip's question, and then we'll talk through a bit of strategy in the middle. Do you guys genuinely think anyone without 5 Origin cards can win tonight? I'll throw it to you first, Stu. What do you think?
Well, I hope not, because I do have 5. So that obviously gives me more of a chance to win. But yeah, I think so. I think it's more about picking the right players. Obviously, 5 Queensland versus New South Wales cards are going to give you a big advantage. But if they're not the right guys, that advantage isn't actually that big. If you've got the 5 top scoring blokes, and they're all your Queensland versus New South Wales cards, then absolutely. But if you're rolling out 3 or 4 that are scoring, sub 30s or the low 30s, like Liam Martin certainly can. He'd be pretty popular, but he can have a really low score in him. Some people might want to play a Val. We've seen a lot of sub 30s from Val over the years as well. So just having 5 doesn't necessarily mean you're a huge chance. It obviously is going to help, but you really want to be having 5 of the the top probably 8 to 10 scorers to be a realistic chance. I think someone can win with 3 or 4. I probably would put a line through having 1 or 2 might be pretty difficult unless they are the 2 top scorers by a long, long way, and they're pretty underplayed. But yeah, it's a tough question. I guess we'll find out at the end of tonight. But my gut instinct would be yes, you can, but you'd probably have to have a few things go your way and maybe play a bench forward that falls into a high minute role because of maybe an injury, and not many people have played them because they were named on the bench.
And we've seen that as well in the past with someone like Reece Walsh getting absolutely clotheslined, and then Hammer playing that fullback role and end up scoring 80 points, going back to that fullback role, and people weren't keen to play a centre at the time with that Queensland versus New South Wales card. So there's, definitely opportunities there for people to pick the right players, and whether they've got the Origin card or not, they still might have success. So I think you're right. It's purely down to the players that you pick. Having the Queensland versus New South Wales card just probably makes your salary and some of the decision-making a little bit easier. I think you can offset quite a bit of salary and make up some points there with those. But yeah, I think Skip, to Skip's credit, he said that there will be probably about 20 odd people that have 5 cards that they're going to roll out, and there's probably more as well. But I think there's definitely opportunities for those players to, potentially pick just the wrong players because of injuries, because of those low minutes or whatever we might see. So I think that we don't discount, anything that could happen in tonight's game or even in the next few weeks in terms of game 2 and 3. And just on strategy, look, we talked through our middles, and we are both playing 5 middles. Is there any world where you might think about dropping one of those middles and putting in an extra edge?
No, not for me. We'll get on the edge pretty shortly, but we just don't have many good options. And while there are, a number of players that we can force in there, there's a lot of uncertainty over their role, their minutes. Some are playing for the first time. Some are named on the bench, even though they're killing it in clubland. So that, there's probably too many question marks. They probably have some more try scoring upside, but, in a really tough competition like the Queensland versus New South Wales game, I think I might go for some safety through the middles and then look for a pot or two, maybe in the halves or the outside backs if possible. But I just feel like, plugging in an edge player for the sake of it, you could be losing 20 or 25 or 30 points just through base. And then their minutes might even be similar to some of the middle players that you sit as a result. So yeah, not for me. But look, I'm not the GDS Cup winner. You might have a bit more insight into some strategy since you're the last man standing.
Yeah, I'm with you though at the moment. I'm playing safe and sticking with the 5 middles. And the reason is that we've seen generally middles scoring just that little bit higher in averages since that 2021. So the stats that I've got there, the average score for all middles since 2021 is that 40-point mark. So for me, I think that's a pretty good sort of baseline to be considering, that anything above 40 points from those players, I think I'll be pretty happy with. We obviously see sort of a decrease in points scored from a GDS point of view in the Queensland versus New South Wales competition compared to a normal NRL game. So your expectations probably need to be a little bit lower as well. But yeah, for me, the middles, they tend to average more points. So I'm just going to go the way of the middles, be safe there. Maybe I might play a higher rarity in something like a Haas or a Carrigan, who we know, should put in a big performance no matter what the sort of situation in the game. That might be an easy way to get a few more points there and not have that higher rarity score you a 10 or 15 points. So that might be an option that I'm looking at as well, where, I might play a silver or gold in one of those or both of those players, or if you do have that Origin card, that Queensland versus New South Wales card, then you'd definitely be looking to play one of those for someone like Yo, Haas or Carrigan for sure, I think.
Sweet as. Hey, Dill, we might just stall for the next minute or two while we wait for some team lists to drop. I think it's time for some more packs. I'm going to share my screen first. Perfect. And I've got my pack ready to go just while waiting for teams to drop. If anyone there in the comments is refreshing their Twitter feed and want to paste a team in as soon as it's named, please do so. I think there might be some changes with the edge forward position, and rather than starting to break that position down, let's get some cards open first, and then we should be able to talk a bit about those team lists. So perfect. I've opened up another 9-player common pack. Remember the rules. If there is any Queensland versus New South Wales player taking the field tonight, they will be given away to someone that has interacted with us during tonight's show, and that'll happen at the very end. So about 7:45-ish, so that we've got enough time to jump off and finalize our teams. But let's see who we've got. All right, there it is. We've got a Silver, Beau Fermor.
Lovely.
Donahue, Corey Waddell, Keeley. We've got a Silver, Stephen Crichton.
Lovely.
Blake Moser, Tui, and one of the B. Smiths. So there's a Fermor and a Stephen Crichton Silver.
Lovely.
probably have to be pretty brave to play one of those, but that is certainly somewhere that you could get quite different and put up, particularly if Fermor gets named. That'll be quite interesting.
Yeah.
Right, have you got a pack ready to go?
Yeah, let's get a pack in there, and then let's hope that we can see if that team is named. Alrighty, let's kick it off here. So we've got Derby, Papali'i, Hopgood, Tupanua, Johnston, Campbell Graham. He might make a cameo there. So I'm going to put him down as a potential Origin player. So we'll give out that Graham as well because he is on the team sheet technically, just a long way down. All right, have we got teams yet? Let's have a quick squiz. I remember this feeling last year where everything changed.
Yeah, it'd be nice just to have a nice straightforward 1 to 17, so we don't have to pull our hair out, make any last minute changes. But while we're just waiting for that, it can't be too far away. You and I have gone for the same edge pairing at the moment.
Yeah.
How about we start with Angus Crichton? I think we're far more likely to have him as a lock, and Liam Martin could be someone that's flexed out once team lists a name. But why Angus Crichton? He was the Wally Lewis medalist last year. He hasn't played for the Roosters as well this season. Can he get back to how good he was last year?
Yeah, I think he can. He's another one of those players that kind of takes it to another level when he puts on that blue jersey. And yeah, we haven't seen him as dominant for the Roosters as we have in previous seasons, but I also think in general that Roosters side is so different to what we've seen in the past. And they're sort of, they're playing a sort of different style of footy that maybe is moving away from Crichton a little bit. But I think here is where he's just going to absolutely blow up. By all reports, it sounds like he's going to line up against the Queensland debutant, the 20-year-old Robert Toya. And if that happens, I think that is just going to spell some absolute danger for anyone that decides not to play Angus Crichton. Look, if we've got Angus Crichton and Latrell Mitchell next to each other with a 20-year-old on debut, I think that could be a very, very scary combo, and I think they're going to cause a lot of havoc there on that left edge, as long as that's how they line up. Did you have anything else in terms of potentially where they might line up there, or is that sort of the mail you're getting?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think we'll have Crichton, Latrell, and Brian To'o. Yep. And on the Queensland side, it will certainly be Rob Toya there on the right, probably Xavier Coates as well on the wing. That's still not confirmed, but that's looking likely. It'll be Cherry Evans and at this stage Jeremiah Nanai, and those two pairing up again. That is a big area of concern. So you can expect the Blues to be sending a lot of traffic down that left edge, and we'll probably talk about it a bit more during the halves section. But does Moses or Cleary play on that side? I think it might be Moses. Keep Cleary and Martin and their defensive structure together on the right. But I can see plenty of ball going from Cleary to Moses out the back, and then he's got a couple of options in Crichton, Latrell to OG. That's a pretty scary side. So having an Angus Crichton card there to maybe he might fall over the line once or twice. Look, his numbers weren't that amazing last season. He only averaged 41.2 points across 75 minutes. And in the game one loss, he only scored 25.8. He bounced back with a 57 and then a 41. So he didn't really set the world alight during those two wins, but we did see for a lot of players, really, if their team didn't win, their points were down quite a bit as well. So, look, you'd expect Crichton to be somewhere around that 50-point mark. They're going to send plenty of traffic down that way. I think he's, a pretty safe card to play, and some people might even look to roll out a silver version of him if they don't own a Queensland versus New South Wales version. So, I think he's one of the more safe edge or forward players to lock in, and certainly more so than Liam Martin.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And the Liam Martin Nanai is sort of the toss-up for me. Before we talk about that, it looks like the Blues team has been locked in, according to NRL on Facebook. And it looks like it is 1 to 17. Looks like it's exactly as named, with Campbell Graham as the 18th man. So doesn't look like there's any changes for the New South Wales team. I'll keep refreshing to see if we can get a Queensland team. But yeah, like you said, Angus, he obviously had a couple of or one down game at least last season, and a couple of sort of better games. But yeah, I think that left edge there is going to be super dangerous, no matter what. No matter who's on that right side leaning, marking up against him. And then for me, it just comes down to whether I want to play Liam Martin and play both edges for New South Wales, or whether I want to take a gamble on someone like Jeremiah Nanai, and that could come down to this team list in a moment to see whether he does definitely start or whether he comes on later. And for me, the only reason really is for Nanai is that, look, both Martin and Nanai have had very, very low floors in the past. They've had scores of 10 GDS points in the past since 2021, and they've had it both multiple times. So that's sort of the downside of playing either Nanai or Martin. But I think Nanai's probably got that attacking upside, mainly due to his ability to just find himself, on the end of that up and under in a try-scoring position. We've seen it, happen multiple times for the Cowboys, and we've seen it happen a couple of times for Queensland. So he knows how to find the line. He does have an attacking stat in him. It's few and far between at this level, but I think he's just, based on that, he's just got a little bit more attacking upside. Plus, I don't know what it is. I just cannot stand Liam Martin when he starts chirping, and it doesn't matter whether he's winning or losing. Liam Martin just starting to have a chat when he's made a tackle, it irks me beyond belief. And I just don't know if I can bring him into my team. And that is not good fantasy, everyone. Do not let your emotion come into it. I will still be making a decision about whether I play Martin or Nanai, but purely based on stats and what I know of Nanai's game, I think I'm going to lean that way. The other one I was looking at is potentially the attacking weapon of Hudson Young. I would love to see him in a starting role or playing some big minutes on the edge. I just am a little bit concerned with his minutes. Last year, he came on and had 23 minutes from the bench in game one, and he had a GDS score of just less than 10. So again, you don't really want that in your side. I probably would rather just have a 0 than 10 points from someone that played 23 minutes. So yeah, I'm interested in Hudson Young, but I'd love to see him start.
Yeah, well, we don't have to worry about any changes. It looks like for the first time in forever, both teams will line up as per program, 1 to 17. So I was really hoping to have a late change for Fermor there on the left and having him as a more safe play over Liam Martin. Like you said, his floor, a 10-point game is brutal. He has scored a 51 in his last 2 series as well, which is good. But that average of 31.7 across those last 2 series in 68 minutes isn't amazing. There's probably a shout for some upside in a Nanai, maybe even a Fermor. It's just so hard to do. I think I'm still going to back Liam Martin in just because of that partnership with Nathan Cleary, and the fact that, look, the Blues are favourites. Cleary loves to throw a short ball. Yeah, he's a grub. We don't like watching him play. I'd hate to play against him. I'd hate to tackle him. But I feel like if he kills it and scores a try or 2 and claps in everyone's face, if he's in my team, that might just ease the pain ever so slightly. When there's no other option jumping out at me. We'll see what the comments are saying. If anyone else has a better idea, we've got Sif Kanga with an Angus and a Nanai. Yeah, look, it probably comes down to that Nanai versus Liam Martin. For me, I might just back the Cleary Martin combination and maybe a 35 that Liam Martin gets. Won't be too much or too fewer than a Nanai. We're probably not going to lose the competition over this one pick.
And I think, before we move on, coaches probably should, like I said before, temper their expectations a little bit in terms of what we're looking for a point scoring type game. We look at rugby league, NRL competition, and scores generally above 50 for any position you're pretty happy with. But here I think you've really got to look at something more like a 30-point sort of baseline to go off. Anything above 30 points, I think for majority of positions is sort of above average. And if we look at the last 4 seasons of Queensland versus New South Wales have scored an average of 36 points across their whole team. And then Queensland have scored an average of 31 across their whole team. So anything above sort of those numbers, I think, you're going to be happy with across most positions. Obviously, we've got some big positions that we want to load up on based on the point scoring opportunity. But for a position like edge forward, you might play a higher rarity in Angus Crichton. But if you're tossing up between Martin and Nanai, I think it's pretty clear. You just chuck in the bronze and be happy with 30 plus for either of them, or probably be even happy with anything greater than 10 if that's their floor and what they've been playing at in the past. So yeah, we've just got to consider that as well, that we might not get the 60, 70, 80s that we've seen from edge forwards throughout the season so far.
Cal's spoken about the emotional hedge. Yep, that's exactly what I've done, just in case Liam Martin goes out there and kills it. Fantasy Fanatics, is that our good friend Bales? Plays a lot of AFL fantasy. I know he's in the AFL Discord quite a lot. If that's you, Bales, g'day, mate. Thanks for joining us. He's going Nanai at this stage to be a little bit different. Yeah, absolutely. That could be a pod that pays off. Skip, not sure if he's throwing a few curveballs out tonight, but he said he's going Hudson Young. Maybe he knows something we don't. Yeah, it's really risky playing, that edge back rower when you've got, he's predominantly there on the left and Crichton plays big minutes. Seeing Huddy go reckless through the middle for 25 or 30 minutes could be pretty exciting, interesting, but not too sure about that. Yeah, it is Bales. G'day, mate. Nice to have you join us and getting amongst the Queensland versus New South Wales game. All right, Dill. Let's far too much time having those two blue cards on the screen, particularly Liam Martin's name. Let's get into the halves, and I think a pretty big talking point will be over our third halves choice. You and I have both gone for the two Blues plays in Cleary and Moses. We're both quite excited from a footy perspective to see how these two will partner each other, and we're expecting Cleary to be there on the right in his normal position, so that he can keep his defensive combination there with Liam Martin. But for Moses, it'll be a bit of a different look for him being out there on the left. As a result, I think we might see Nathan Cleary get a bit more in terms of kicking responsibility, being there on that right as a natural right footer. Oh, that's not saying Moses won't do any of the kicking, but it's just not as natural for him being lined up predominantly there on the left. He'll obviously, roam both sides of the field like he does in clubland. But if Cleary does hold down that right spot, particularly defensively, and then his shape sort of fourth or fifth play gets back out there to the right, he'll do a lot of the kicking. But regardless, I think both of those two are excellent options. Moses was absolutely fantastic last season. He didn't play game one, but sort of won the series for the Blues, in that game 2 and game 3. He had that massive 63.3 GDS point score in game 2, and then had a pretty nice game there in game 3 as well. He's averaged 48 points in 4 of 5 games that Cleary didn't play. Cleary hasn't featured since game 1 in 2023, where he scored a 45. But look, we know Cleary is one of the most dominant sevens in the game, and he hasn't really taken the Origin arena by storm yet. He's done everything that you can do in clubland, but he hasn't really shown that he's going to be that New South Wales 7 for the next, 8 or 10 years. So this might be the season that he really puts his hand up, and that partnership between those two from a Queensland point of view is very scary. But also on the other side, it could also mean that they try to overplay each other's hands too much and get in each other's way. And, maybe it might be a little bit clunky and disjointed, even if it is so for 15 or 20 minutes while they're still finding things out, then I'd love that. But I think that's a pretty dominant halves pairing. Do you want to add anything more into that, or you want to talk about why you've gone for Munster at this stage over DCE?
Yeah, I think you nailed pretty much everything there about those two. I cannot believe that they haven't been a halves pairing in this arena yet. It baffles me that they haven't had that opportunity yet. So it will be great to see. And you did touch on one of the questions that I had is who is going to be the dominant kicker? Both of the dominant kickers in their club, they're both averaging way over 500 kicking meters per game, which translates to over 15 GDS points. So, if it is Cleary, like you said, who, that makes sense. He's on the right side and will probably get or demand most of the ball, I would suggest. That potentially Moses loses out on 15 odd points. It might be more like 5 or 6 he gets from those kicking meters, because he obviously will get some kicking meters, but he won't be dominant. So, I think, again, there might be an opportunity for some people that think maybe that the Queensland pairing might be a better way to go, and you play both Queenslanders with Cleary. That, I think that could be an option there if you just think Cleary's going to be a lot more dominant than what Moses is. I guess the benefit from Moses is he loves to run the ball as well, and he's been playing some really good footy since his return. And it doesn't look like that foot injury has really, concerned him since he's returned. So, there's some positive signs there for Moses. But yeah, as you touched on, the big difference there for us is you've gone the old boy in DCE, and I'm running with money. And I think for me, their stacks actually are really similar. Across the last 8 games for Munster, he's had a low of 23, but a high of 78. You go across to DCE. Since then, he's had a low of 22 and a high of 82. So their sort of floor ceiling is very similar in terms of what you're going to get from both players. I would suggest that DCE is probably a little bit more organised, a little bit more thoughtful and considered in his gameplay, whereas Money seems to like to make it up on the spot, which can be both a negative and a positive, I think, for GDS scoring. And I think that's where I'm sort of targeting, is that potential positive in Money to just get the ball in his hands, not have much on, step 4, 5, 6 times and make a couple tackle breaks and maybe even a line break in that one play. And I think he's going to be the difference. If Queensland are going to go on and win this game, I think it's going to be on the shoulders of Cameron Munster. I think, he's going to have a massive, massive opportunity to score some points and to put us into a really good position going into game 2. Across those 8 games that Money has played since 2021, he's averaged 22 and a half tackles, 112 running meters, and 3 tackle breaks per game. So that gives him an average of that base and power of 43 and a half, which is a really good spot to be in. I think I'd be happy with that. Anything on top of that, I think is just going to be gold. So yeah, I'm going the way of Munster at the moment. In terms of the stats from New South Wales point of view in their defence, it's very even on both sides of the field. New South Wales given up 45 on average to left halves since 2021, and something very similar across on the other side in terms of 46, 47. So there's not a lot of difference on either side of the park. It's just going to come down to who I think is probably going to be that game breaker, and I'm going to go Munster.
Yeah, and I think if the game goes as we expect, and maybe Queensland might be chasing the Blues toward the back end of the game, that's sort of where we expect, Munster to certainly go a bit ad lib and away from the script and do a few things himself. And that's certainly when he palms off 3 or 4 blokes in the one run and accumulates attacking points that way. Look, he didn't play last series, obviously through injury, but in the year before that, averaged 53, which is good. But I just compared the numbers from in Clubland from 2023 to this season, and he's averaging about 5 or 6 GDS points less. So that, to me, is signs that he is on a bit of a decline, and whether that's going to translate to the Origin arena, who knows? But it's just showing us that he may not necessarily be that same guy that did win games for Queensland in a dominant fashion and who averaged 53.2 points in the 2023 season. Look, Cherry Evans, seems to score really, really well, but admittedly that score of 82 was without Munster, so he probably takes a bit more responsibility when he doesn't have Cameron there on his left, and he scores a 48, 45 and 27 in that 2023 series when he played alongside Munster. So the scores for DCE in that series weren't great. They were a lot better last season, but that's because Munster wasn't there. So I might sort of rethink that. I also had a look at the Storm's losses this season. Most notably their previous 3 losses against the Sharks, the Raiders and the Dolphins. Munster went below 50 in twice of those, in 2 of those games, but he most recently scored a 74 GDS points in that 31-26 loss to the Sharks. So I was just looking if he sort of goes missing in some of those losses or those bigger matches, and he didn't have a good outing against the Raiders or the Dolphins, if you can read into that at all. But look, that position is probably going to give me headaches until 8:04 when everything locks out. I might bounce back and forth between the two. The comments giving much away. Looks like we've got a few.
Bales has got a really good question.
Yeah.
So Bales has said, or Fantasy Fanatics, as we've got him there, is there a play to go Cleary, DCE and Munster? And then fade Moses, particularly if Cleary is going to be the main kicker. And I think there is a play there. I think if you feel that Queensland are going to win off the back of their halves and what the halves do, I definitely think that is a big play. We obviously know Cleary is the best half in the competition. There's no doubt about that from an NRL perspective. We've seen some big games from Cleary in the past, but we've also seen, some subpar games or some games that Cleary probably wouldn't be happy with himself. So, we expect him to step up and have a big game, but there's definitely an opportunity there for, the Queensland pairing to get up. So I think it's just going to come down to one of two things. One, do you think Moses is going to have an opportunity to potentially put some players over the line? Or do you think that Cherry Evans and Munster are going to be the reason that Queensland probably get up tonight? So those two questions, if you can answer one of those, then I think it's clear where you want to go. And look, just on those stats with Munster and losses, I feel like you've just shoehorned that in so that you could talk about Melbourne losing to the Raiders again at Magic Round in that nail biter of a golden point. Am I correct there, mate? Or are you just trying to find anything?
Nah, it didn't even cross my mind. How good are the Raiders going just quietly? What is it?
The Raiders on fire, unreal. They got it done in New Zealand as well, so good on them. Alrighty, moving on to the centres, and I guess the coaches have made it pretty easy for us in both the centre position and the wing position. Only picking a couple and sort of playing a couple out of position as well. It's made it quite easy, I believe. There's only a few centre options, and I think the two key ones are just going with the two players on the screen there and going Val Holmes and Stephen Crichton. I had a little bit of concern over Crichton with the heavily strapping on his leg earlier in the week, while there was also some whispers of Queensland doing the dirty and getting some drone footage when they weren't meant to be. It's all the not mind games that happen. So whether that was a true injury or whether that was a little bit to get inside the heads of Queenslanders, I'm not really sure. But he looks fit and firing then, and like we said, he's been named in the side, so he will run out. And look, in the past, we haven't seen a whole lot from Crichton in terms of attack. It's where his defence is the big one that we usually look at for Stephen Crichton. But I think he's a better option in terms of his defence than going with the debutant and Rob Toyer, because he can miss a tackle or two. He's got a big night ahead of him, and I think it's going to be a pretty chaotic night for him. And I just feel like there's going to be a few missed tackles from Toyer. So I'm just going to go the safety of Stephen Crichton. And then Holmes, we know he's got an error, a penalty, and a bit of a brain snap in him in the past. But we also know he can break tackles at will, and he's got a really good offload and opportunities, sort of inside and outside, both the wing and centre. So, yeah, I think that's pretty easy from a GDS perspective, just to play those two and take those points where you can.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to see Val Holmes only averaging 33 points in the past two series, really close to Stephen Crichton there on 30. But yeah, you nailed it. If Rob Toyer doesn't wake up with a massive headache tomorrow morning, then it probably means Latrell Mitchell didn't have a very big game. He's in for a tough night for his introduction to Origin, marking that man Latrell Mitchell. He's going to find that going really tough. Yeah, every tackle break that Latrell Mitchell gets is likely to be, somewhere around the Rob Toyer vicinity as well. So every time Latrell breaks a tackle, then it's Rob Toyer might be going back in negative. So yeah, it's probably one to look at. Good on him for getting the call up. Billy's obviously got plenty of faith in him there. And look, he may not be there game two, regardless if we win with a couple of boys coming back and maybe Val moving back to a centre or that sort of thing. But let's just hope he really aims up. And if he has a massive game and outscores a Crichton or Holmes, even though he's not in our team, I'm sure you and I will both be cheering. But yeah. Centre position, fairly easy. Let's just hope Rob Toyer goes well on debut.
Now, is there, just before we move on, and it's probably the same conversation for wingers, is there sort of an opportunity here for some coaches to be a bit smart with their salary? And in my head, I'd go, look, these two positions are probably the lowest scoring positions in the Queensland versus New South Wales competition. But because of the way that the team has been selected in both the centre and wing positions, it's, like I said, it's sort of forcing our hand to play potentially the same four players. Is there an opportunity there for someone to be sneaky and play maybe a gold Val Holmes when everyone else is going to play their bronze? And because we already know that majority of coaches are going to play that player, you're going to get 10, 15 additional points on top of your Val Holmes score. Is that a play, or do you think that's just a bit silly and you're just making it a little bit complicated?
I think with the center position, yes, but absolutely for the wing position. Typically, yeah, we don't see wingers scoring that well, particularly in our regular in a rugby league season. We sort of just look for a bit of safety or someone playing out of position there, or someone who's going to score plenty of points. But yeah, absolutely. Look, I'll tip you into a bit of a secret. I've got a silver winger, so I've eaten up some of my salary for one of those two players on screen. And look, in his last two series, Brian Toto averages 51.4 GDS points. Now, that's more than a number of the middle forwards that we're all, packing into our squads just because of the safety that provides. Now, that's 51.4 points through base, through tries, but someone who's got plenty of attacking upside is certainly someone that you'd want to plug into your team. But look, Zach Lomax is just absolutely built for Origin. He averaged 59.7 last year. And that included a massive 76.7 game in game 2. Now, look, if these two get the Blues on the front foot with plenty of meters coming out of their own end, it could be a long and tiresome defensive night, defensive battle for Queensland with a lot of kicking out of their own end. But yeah, look, Zach Lomax, those numbers from last year are fantastic. He's got the attacking upside as well, playing on the right-hand side outside of Nathan Cleary. He's amazing. An amazing weapon in the air as well, and it looks like he'll be matched up there against Val Holmes, and there's obviously an advantage there to Zach Lomax. So yeah, that question you asked certainly would be very tempting for the wing position, not so much the center, but yeah, if someone wants to go a gold or a platinum or Lomax, I'm all for it, and I've actually got a silver in there at the moment, and I could probably be talked into going one rarity higher.
Again, it does come down to the balance of your squad and the salary cap, obviously, and you've got to be within that salary cap. The Queensland versus New South Wales cards obviously help that a lot. I currently have a platinum card in my side as well, which that takes up a lot of salary cap, and that makes some of the other positions a little bit more difficult. I won't say what position it is, but I think it's a player that pretty much everyone will be playing. So I'm looking for that potential upside there in a higher rarity. So yeah, it's an interesting way to go about it, and I think that's where potentially you might see some difference in scores, and potentially a team that doesn't play all 5 special card positions, or the Queensland versus New South Wales cards. Might be where they get up is based on where they place their salary, or where they think the most important positions are going to be for those points. As you said, To'o, Lomax, they both scored really well over the last few seasons. I think To'o since 2021, he's averaging 51 GDS points, which, yeah, like you said, we're talking about middles that we're getting into our sides, and I think To'o is definitely one that will play, and Lomax the same. And I don't think Coates really has an opportunity to score at all well, unless he finds the line 1 or probably 2 times is sort of the only option I would suggest that Coates is going to get much of a score there. So I think it's pretty easy. Set and forget those and play around with your rarities.
Yeah, I think if you want to choose the biggest pot of the whole night, that probably would be dropping one of these blokes for Xavier Coates. Mate, fullback position, we've gone the same as well. So our backs are looking very similar. We've gone the Hammer, Latrell, both they're both playing the centres. So we're just going for the one actual fullback, and we're fading KP. Is there just a bit of uncertainty around, KP's ribs, his form, and maybe just a bit more safety in the likes of those 3 on screen ahead of him?
You've nailed it. What I'm actually hoping, and I never really want a player to be injured, particularly not a Queenslander. But what I'm kind of potentially looking forward towards is that opportunity that maybe Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow moves back to the fullback role, and KP maybe moves into a center position. Maybe he's off the field and Fermor goes into that center position. I just the form of KP at the moment, like you said, the ribs, he's just not quite looking there for me at the moment from from a new NRL perspective and from a Newcastle perspective. So yeah, I'm just a bit concerned what is going to happen in this game. We've seen Ponga have some great games. We've also seen him have some poor games in this arena. So I think that the 3 safe options is Latrell. Obviously, we've talked about lining up against Rob Toyer. He and Angus came out the other day and said we are absolutely going to make his night miserable. And then Edwards, I think, is just an easy play. We've seen scores of 61 and 50 from him, which is sort of in line with the average that Queensland gave up to Teddy since 2021 as well, giving up sort of 56 points to Tedesco since 2021. So it's sort of the same as normal for Edwards coming in. We'll play both sides of the field, I think, as well, and probably have a good connection with Cleary and Martin, like he does in Clubland. So I think those sort of three pick themselves. And then if you want to be fancy, you could go a Ponga. If you want to be super spicy, you could go a Coates or one of the other centres in Toya maybe as your third option on the bench. But for me, we talk about it each and every week: playing safe, playing smart. It'll be those three, and then the rarities will be where I sort of, in those three players, I think they've got the best upside and the best scoring opportunity. So that's where I'll be sort of putting most of my salary in, I would suggest. Particularly Mitchell. I think if you've got a Queensland versus New South Wales Mitchell card, I think you've got to play him. If you've got a gold, I would even think playing a Latrell Mitchell with gold, I think that's going to have upside for you as well.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think Hammer, his speed there on the left edge there, and his link-up play with Val and Munster on both sides of him will cause a bit of trouble there for the Blues. And I think having him there is a great spot for him. And if he finds himself as a fullback, then probably some more points coming his way there. But Ponga is probably the one way that we can get different. Not for you and I, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of Pongas. Maybe that's another emotional hedge. If Ponga goes well, Queensland are probably more than likely going to be the victors. He won't be in our team in terms of GDS point scoring, but that's where the emotional hedge comes in. Dill Edwards probably just gets through his 250 meters like the other two outside backs, and a 50-point game for him is probably expected and probably standard. We've got a quick question here from Fantasy Fanatics. Thanks for joining us. Of course, Bales, he's got 700K salary left. Who are the picks of players you would put your salary on? I already have salary on Cleary, DC, and Munster.
He's got a Cleary card. Good on you, mate. Well done, Bales. Lovely.
Yeah. Wow. What a pick. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably be thinking someone like Latrell, and then maybe Haas and probably Carrigan is sort of where my head would be for that, spreading it out that way. And then if you've got any left over, maybe, like you said, play a silver in your or gold in your centres. In your wing position, as majority of players are going to be very similar there.
Yeah, I like it. Just the one bit of advice is use up that whole 700K. Maybe make a list of who you think is going to be the highest point scorers and prioritize their cards. Bales, I know you're a bit of an AFL man. If you're struggling for some NRL cards, let us know, and we'll see what we can do to help you out. But use up all of that 700K that you can. Prioritize your Payne Haas, your Paddy Carrigan, and then even get spicy and throw off a bit extra on Latrell and maybe the Hammer.
Yeah, I love it. And if you ever want to get rid of that Queensland versus New South Wales Cleary card, my DMs are always open, Bales, so just hit me up, mate. I've heard that Cleary's not as good as what everyone thinks he is. All right, let's jump into one more pack opening. So we've had a couple of decent cards in Fermor, Crichton, and I included Campbell Graham, but he's obviously hasn't made the side. He's the 18th man. Let's open a couple of rare packs, shall we? So I'm going to share my screen, and I've just opened a rare 9-player pack. Let's see if we can get some more Origin players. We've got a gold Haas. Dylan Edwards gold. There we go. There it is. Lovely. Couple of platinums there. Fletcher Sharp gold. And we finish with another in Teague. So there's a Edwards there to go into the prize pool as well.
Righto. Awesome. I'll get my rare pack opened, and then we'll work out how we're going to get these cards out to the winners.
We will have to do it super quick.
All right. We got a gold Munster, Capewell, CHT, McLean, Adam Dewey, Folletti, Sammy Stone Street, Hamanuele, and a platinum Bradman Best. So a gold Cam Munster will be thrown in amongst my silver Fermor and a silver Stephen Crichton.
Gold. Lovely. All righty. So let's jump into some of this giveaways then. Before we do that, though, let's jump into Bro Down Showdown. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, so usually we go through Bro Down Showdown each and every week, and we pick 3 positions. So we spin the wheel, pick 3 positions, and then we pick our 3 players that we think are going to top score. Tonight, a little bit different. We're going to do it a little bit differently. And tonight we have spun the wheel and found 2 positions. We had to pick 1 from New South Wales and 1 from Queensland, and we are going to have the combined scores as our final total score going head to head. So, again, this is an opportunity for you to win some more cards simply by commenting. So if you think that my combination of Brian To'o and Ruben Cotter are going to defeat Stu's combination of Zach Lomax and Patrick Carrigan, make sure that you comment Dill. If you think Stu's going to get up in this Bro Down Showdown special, then comment Stu, and we will announce some winners on our next show. So it's really easy to do, and I'm sure we'll have some great cards to give away then as well. Usually the way that we do it is we open a pack and we'll give away some cards based on whether it's 2-1 or 3-0, but obviously this is going to be a little bit different, so we've got something a bit special for you over the next few weeks for giveaways there. Straight away, everyone jumping in, getting on Stu. Cozzy, I thought we were friends, mate. That's okay.
You might,
as well. Stu
might put a cutoff. Maybe 20 or so minutes into the game to get those comments into the YouTube video as well. This will go up on YouTube as well. So if you forget to comment, make sure you do that by about the 20-minute mark, and anyone who's entered will have a chance to win. Mate, that giveaway that we alluded to earlier, there it is.
Let's get into it. Alrighty, so everyone that commented, we have put you into the wheel, and let's get that wheel up on screen now. So I need to stop sharing that. Mate, they're all coming in for Stu. They do not think that I am going to have a win in Bro Down Showdown. That's fine. Okay, we've got the wheel on screen. That should be there now. You should be able to see your name if you commented. I'll just leave that up for a second to give anyone 1 more minute to comment or to check if they have commented. I've tried to keep track of everyone that has sent through a comment. But if you do not see your name there and you are in the chat, quickly jump on now. There is a Daily Cherry Evans Queensland versus New South Wales card to give away, plus those other cards that we pulled, the Silver Fermor, the Silver Crichton, the Gold Edwards, the Gold Munster, and I'll give away the Silver Graham as well. Oh, finally, thanks, Cal. One person backing me, backing the GDS Cup champ. Thank you, Cal. I feel better now. Good. All right. No one else in the chat wants to get on. No one's missing their name. So let's do it. We're going to spin. So this first spin is going to be for the Silver Fermor. I think it's the first card we pulled. Is that right?
And Crichton. Both of them.
Both of them. All right. Here we go. Silver Fermor.
Silver Crichton.
Silver Crichton. There we go. Bales. There could be a good opportunity for Bales there to take that Silver Crichton and put him straight into his team. Lovely. Okay, the next one is going to be for, what was the next one? Gold Edwards.
Was it? Yeah.
Gold Edwards, and then you've got the Gold Munster. Okay, this is for a Gold Edwards. Here we go. And this, I'll throw in the Silver Graham as well. Matty P. Well done, Matty P. Thank you for supporting us, mate. And then this is for the Munster. Oh, it's going to get over. Teresa, well done, Teresa.
The Gold Munster for Teresa. Well
Gold
done.
Munster for Teresa. All right, now it is 7:44. We're about to get to the major prize. We haven't discussed this at all, but I'm just thinking I'm feeling really nice tonight. Should we put those 3 players back into the wheel and give them an opportunity?
I think so, yeah. They've won some good cards, but we shouldn't exclude them from winning the big card.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. So Bales, Matty P, and Teresa, you are back in. All right, so here we go.
Is there a chance for a quick shuffle, maybe?
Oh, yeah, let's get a shuffle going. I like it. Good idea. There we go. There we go. 7 shuffles. Lovely. They're looking good. Alrighty. I should have changed these colours to just blue and maroon. Hey, sorry about that. Alrighty. This is for the DCE Origin Queensland versus New South Wales card, and the grand prize winner is Jack Ganley. Well done, mate. Jack Ganley, congratulations. Thank you for supporting us, for commenting, for getting involved. Hit me up on the Discord if you can, and we will get that to you in time for the game, which we've got about 15 minutes to get there, so we should be able to get that in time.
Any last minute team selection changes you're going to make, Dill, do you think?
I don't think so. I think I'm going to... Well, I already did say that I think I might change to Nanai, and I think I've gone ahead and done that while we've been sitting here talking. So the Martin to Nanai switch has happened. I think outside of that, I think I'm going to stick with Harry Grant over Robson, Cotter over Tino, and I think that was the differences. Was there any others that I missed?
And then your Munster over Mike Cherry.
Yep. I think I'm awesome. Those. Yeah. How are you? Are you looking the same?
Yeah, I think I'll just lock and load. Too stressful making those last minute changes, and then it's always if I didn't change it, I would have come to this place. All righty, mate. Well, thank you very much. What a good way to kill that hour and 20 leading up to the game. We've only got 20 or so minutes until the game kicks off. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Like always, great to see a couple of new faces for the Queensland versus New South Wales Game 1 live show. Make sure you join us in 3 weeks' time. That'll be Wednesday, June the 18th. We'll do something really similar with a couple of more cards to give away for the Game 2 live preview. Thanks very much for joining us, Dill, or should I say GDS Cup winner or champ. Yeah. Thanks very much, everyone who commented, everyone who asked. Hopefully, we've steered you in the direction of 1 or 2 tips that can get you up that leaderboard. Good luck, everyone, and may the best team win.
Up the Queenslanders. Have a good night. Hopefully the game goes well. Hopefully your team goes well. And like we said,